Hello there, I'm Jan James, and this is the Hope After Breast Cancer podcast, where our beautiful team of contributing experts share their wisdom about how we can heal our unseen wounds after a breast cancer diagnosis. I hope you enjoy this episode. Hi, everyone, it's Jan James with Hope After Breast Cancer, and I'm so glad that you're joining us today for the second of two interviews I'm having with Dawn Hopkins, who is a licensed facilitator for the Am I Hungry Mindful Eating program. Hey, Dawn.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Well, so glad you're here. You know, you are probably, of all of our dozens of contributing experts, the most difficult for me to introduce, because truly I could take up half of the podcast if I really talked about all your credentials. Will you give the girls a little background about you're not just that thing, you're like all these other things, but you know a good way to maybe kind of make it succinct, more succinct than I could do it. So tell everybody about yourself.
Thank you. Well, I'm the owner and founder of Inspiritus Yoga, and we provide holistic wellness programs, yoga classes, workshops, teacher training programs, a variety of different healing services. We offer retreats as well, and the Am I Hungry Mindful Eating program. I'm also one of the trainers who co-developed the mindful eating and yoga program for the Am I Hungry program as well. So I'm a teacher trainer, and I really love teaching and training and sharing what I'm passionate about. And yoga and mindful eating literally transformed my life. So this is always exciting for me to get to share my two biggest passions, the things that have really affected me personally, and being able to share those with others to help them on their journey as well.
Right. And what about your breast cancer journey? You're one of us as well, right?
I am. I had two breast cancer journeys. My first one was in 2018, and then I got diagnosed a second time, well, with DCIS the first time. I had a bilateral mastectomy, and I didn't do any other real treatment beyond that. We thought I was going to be one and done at that point. But then after just kind of a routine MRI, I don't really know why at 3 years, my doctor decided to do an MRI. We discovered that I had a second occurrence of cancer. This time it was invasive ductal carcinoma. And that was like last summer. So I went through radiation treatment, and now I'm on hormone suppressing drugs, which we know are so much fun.
Super fun. Sign me up, will you? I know.
So
right?
much fun.
It's, not so much fun, but no. So that's it's sneaky cancer.
Mm-hmm.
It's really sneaky, right? Like you would have no breast tissue hardly left at all for the cancer to come back in, right? Because you did a bilateral, but there it goes. So yeah, we just all have to be super diligent and do our best to try and keep the beast at bay. So yeah. So, and one of the reasons why you and I decided to do a focus on mindful eating this month is, yes, the holidays are upon us, but in our community, which I've been serving for almost 11 years now, there's no question that the changes that we all experience in our bodies through and after treatment, just everything changes, like kind of without notice. It's not that we're trying to make them change, but they change. It's hormonal changes. Yes, do we eat differently? Perhaps. I always used to joke that there's two types of women in the breast cancer community. Half of them are eating raw. They're vegan, they're doing triathlons. The rest of us are over at Dairy Queen just celebrating that we're still alive. And so, there's this wild, it's true that there are women of all types, but I think that universally, it doesn't matter if you're eating raw. I think that there is still this frustration, I think, with what cancer does to our bodies and to our minds as well. about eating and about the way that our body image is perceived by us and by others, all of those things. So when you and I met and we talked about the mindful eating program, I was like, wow, you know, I have struggled my whole adult life with my weight and, you know, have been up and down like a yo-yo. And I am so, at age 63, I'm so over it right now. So last week, friends, if you have not seen the first mindful eating session, which, you know, is labeled like part 1 of 2, I would really encourage you to do that, because Dawn used me as her guinea pig to kind of walk me through some things. And I didn't know what to expect. I didn't have a clue what mindful eating was before we started talking. And honestly, even for the short period of time we talked last week, I really just was way more plugged in about what I'm thinking about food throughout the week. And I can't wait to learn more. For all of those of you that are in our groups, all of our groups, everything from Booby Buddies to Hope After Breast Cancer to Sex After Breast Cancer to Booby Buddies in Espanol, Thriver Nation, all of you guys. Those videos are in the guide section. I created a guide section for all of you today. And I want you to just be able to lean into that content. We will be posting content for about the next 2 months that's really focused on mindful eating, because this is the time of year when we're all thinking about that. And we're all going, you know, the new year comes and we are all going, oh, what's my New Year's resolution? Yeah, I'm all done with that too. So I want to help. I want to learn from Dawn so that I can help myself have an all year round good, solid relationship with food, that I am not beating myself up about things, that I am not beating myself up about the choices I make. I think we all are guilty of that. We've all been kind of trained to do that. So with that being said, I'm going to throw it to Dawn. You're going to do a little bit of a recap about what we talked about last week, right?
A little bit. Yeah, I just want to touch on a few things because we're going to dive into mindful eating and how we eat. And last time I shared with you guys the eating cycle that we utilize for the Am I Hungry Mindful Eating program. It really just helps us simplify and bring awareness to the decisions we make around food all the time that we oftentimes are unconscious of, right? So we're bringing consciousness and awareness to the decisions that we make around food. That in and of itself puts us in charge, right? Rather than feeling like I'm in control, I'm out of control, I'm in control, I'm out of control. Instead, bringing awareness gives us choice and allows us to respond rather than react in the habitual behaviors that we're so used to, right? So I'm going to have you draw a circle on your page. So we did this last time, and you're going to draw a big circle on a piece of paper. And then at 12 o'clock, I want you to write the word why. So this is, why do I eat? And then at 2 o'clock, I want you to write when. When do I want to eat? At 4 o'clock, write the word what. So this is about, what do I eat? What do I choose to eat? And then at 6 o'clock, write the word how. How do I eat? This is where we're going to hang out today. Then at 8 o'clock, write how much. So how much do I eat? And then at 10 o'clock, write the word where. Where do I invest my energy from the food that I eat? So last week, I presented 3 different eating cycles. We looked at the restrictive eating cycle, which is us on a diet, whatever that diet might be, right? Where everything is, all these decisions are being determined by the diet and the rules of the diet. I also presented the restrictive eating cycle, the overeating cycle, which is going to be fueled by any number of things. So we might be eating because of emotions. We might be eating out of boredom, out of the need for love and attention, out of feeling stressed or feeling pain in our body, having a headache, any number of reasons, but not driven by hunger. Okay. So what I really wanted to paint the picture of is instinctive eating. And we talked about a toddler and how a toddler is, us when we were much younger, we were instinctive eaters, right? We ate in a way that was instinctive. So that's what our aim is. And instinctive eating is led by hunger. The why is determined by us asking ourselves, am I hungry? And then going from there. So we're going to recap each of these decision points, but we're going to paint the picture of what it means to eat mindfully. So we're really kind of camping out in that how, but we're going to go through the decision cycle to illustrate how we can use this cycle to keep us in that instinctive eating cycle, keep us aware as we make decisions around food. So what I love about this is it's universal. So yes, we talked about we're moving into the holiday season, but this is an effective tool that we can use anytime we have the urge to eat. And it's especially helpful when we are maybe being fed by somebody else. So if we're going to an event, if we're going to a party, if we're on a cruise, if we're not the ones, making the food for ourselves, it gives us some really cool strategies that we can utilize. So thinking in terms of mindful eating, just to refresh your memory, if you're here, for the first time, might be new information, but mindful eating is eating with intention and attention. Okay, so intention is why we're eating in the first place and what we hope to get out of it. Like how do we want to feel after we're done eating, and setting an intention around that. And then attention is making sure that we are fully present and completely connected to the act of eating, and we remain that way, throughout our meal. So let's first look at what it looks like to eat mindlessly. Okay, we're familiar with that, I'm sure, right?
A little too familiar, I'm afraid. Yes, I've always felt like I've said I'm an unconscious eater, and that's exactly what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, mindlessness. Yeah, unconscious. Yeah. Consciousness and awareness are mindfulness. When we're disconnected from that, then maybe we're eating a way that's mindless. So what distracts you while you're eating?
Oh, well, I'm multitasking, I'm watching TV, or even when we're sitting at the dinner table with the family, you're chit-chatting and you don't even know what you're eating or how much you're eating, that kind of thing. When I'm alone, I find myself going, oh gosh, that sounds like a good snack. So I go get a bag of chips or something and I think, oh, that would taste good. So a couple of chips turns into 20 chips or something, so it's just because I'm working along, I'm not really even paying attention to what I'm putting in my mouth.
Yeah. And that's exactly what happens when we are distracted, whether we're eating in front of the TV, we're eating while we're driving, we're eating while we're doing another activity, that sort of thing. We're not paying attention. So it really increases the chances that we're going to eat too fast, we're going to eat too much. We might end up feeling yucky afterward. And the reality is that we want to feel better when we're done eating than when we started, right? That is one of our goals, and maybe our intention when we eat is to feel better, right? So mindful eating, bringing that mindfulness piece and eating with intention and attention, and we're going to talk about that more, really helps us to increase the amount of pleasure and satisfaction that we get from our eating. It helps us really dial into the sensations of hunger and fullness in our body, which also helps reduce the chances of us overeating because we're paying attention, right? And we're noticing how we're feeling while we eat. So it makes it easier for us to stop before we get uncomfortable. It also helps us notice how certain foods make us feel. And so I've noticed as I've gotten older that gluten isn't always my friend. And I mentioned this last time. I'm from Chicago. I like a good pizza,
Right.
I like carbs. I'm just going to say it out loud. And the reality is, though, that oftentimes I don't feel really good if I eat things that have gluten in them. And so I'm aware of that now. So I'll notice while I'm eating, like, oh, wait, not feeling so great, might not want to continue to eat this, that kind of thing. Or sometimes to make the conscious decision that, yeah, maybe I'm just going to feel icky to this time because it tastes so good, whatever. That's still a choice. We've made a choice. So, so when we're thinking in terms of intention, it's about, eating when we're hungry. That doesn't mean we can't eat when we're not hungry, by the way. We have a choice. Okay. But primarily we're going to, let hunger be the driver when it comes to our eating. Also eating to meet our needs and our wants. We talked about that last time, right? If we really, 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 really want something, we're going to end up eventually getting to it. We're going to eventually eat it. And oftentimes we'll eat all what we label as good food. And I'm putting air quotes here. We'll eat all that first because we're trying to avoid, eating a specific food that we've now labeled as bad, right? So, but then we still have that craving. We still want it. Oftentimes for me, it's going to be chocolate. And, by the time we get around to eating it, now we've eaten too much. And, if we had just eaten it in the first place and gotten it over with, we, might not have overeaten. Plus, it now gives it so much more power over us. So oftentimes if we, label food as good and bad, we tend to overeat the food that we label as bad. If we had every food on an even playing field, it really reduces the chances of us overeating it. So seems counterintuitive, but it's not. So there's a lot of science behind it. But we also, one of the intentions is to balance eating for nourishment and fuel with eating for enjoyment. Okay, so finding that balance. And then eating with an intention requires us to focus our attention. Okay, so where are we directing our attention when we eat? So this is about giving eating, or the act of eating, our full attention, staying present with it the entire time, eliminating distractions, or at least reducing distractions, really tuning into the ambiance, the aromas, the appearance of the food, the flavors, the textures, the temperature, all of that, really dialing our senses in to experience it in its fullest. And then listening to our body's cues throughout, our body's cues for hunger, in terms of determining when we want to eat, and then our cues for fullness in terms of how or when we're going to stop eating, right? And so we're dialed into that whole process. So we're going to look at some strategies that we can use using that eating cycle that I mentioned to you earlier. So going back to the why, okay, so at 12 o'clock, I told you to put a why on that circle or on that cycle. Why is, what is the purpose of my eating today? Okay, so think about why we might eat.
Oh, sorry. You're asking me a question. Well,
I thought you were
eat,
thinking.
I was writing notes. We eat because we're hungry. We eat for fuel. We eat because it's breakfast time, and I always eat at breakfast time, which doesn't necessarily mean I'm hungry, or any other meal of the day, those kinds of things.
Yeah. So, our why when we're in the instinctive eating cycle is going to be, for fuel, right? And also enjoyment. We talked about that balance, right? We want to enjoy the food too. So when we're setting our intention around when When do I want to eat? We ask ourselves, am I hungry? To first bring awareness to our eating. When we have the urge to eat, we ask ourselves, am I hungry? Okay, now we're in charge. Now we're aware. And then we can use something called a hunger scale, which I'm going to teach you today. I promised last week I would teach that to you, to determine how hungry we are, which will help inform us as to when is the right time to eat. Okay, so we use a hunger scale of 1 to 10. A 1 is where our stomach is absolutely empty. So I want you to think of your stomach like a balloon, because it is very much balloon-like, and it does stretch, you know, as we fill it with food. So here, the balloon is completely empty. There's nothing in it. Okay, and so I shared with you guys last week signs and symptoms of hunger coming from the stomach, where the stomach is continuing to churn, even though there's no food in there. That might give us those hunger pangs. We might have growling in our stomach or rumbling of some kind. We might feel a sense of emptiness. We might even feel kind of nauseated, just because the acid is all in the stomach and it doesn't have any, you know, anything to do, right? So those are all signs and symptoms of hunger. Also, we talked about low blood sugar. So that I point to my head when I talk about low blood sugar, because that's where you might feel dizzy, kind of confused. You might feel a little impatient. You might feel hangry, you know, that sort of thing. So we're checking in. So the 1 on the hunger scale is completely empty. There's no food in our stomach. Those are the times where we tend to make not great decisions around food. Okay, we're going to reach for whatever we can get our hands on just to get something in our stomach. Okay?
So are you saying that we shouldn't get to a 1? I mean, we might, but we probably don't want to do that then.
Yeah. So I'm going to share with you, like, maybe it's better to eat around a 2 or a 3. So a 2 is where we are hungry and it's time to eat, but we haven't gotten so hungry that we don't have our wits about us anymore and we can't make, you know, a good decision. So at that point, we're just so hungry that we will grab anything, right? So a 2 is a wonderful place to eat because, by the way, hunger is the best seasoning. So have you ever noticed that when you're really hungry, food tastes even better? Yeah. So we're going to enjoy the food more, you know, when we're hungry. And still, you know, here we haven't gotten to that point where we're so hungry we really can't think anymore. A 3 is where we feel hungry and it would be pleasurable to eat, and we still have a little bit of time. So that's a great time to maybe start preparing a meal. Okay. A 4 is where we are just starting to notice signs and symptoms of hunger. Okay. A 5 is where we literally have just filled the balloon. So we're not full, but we're not hungry. We are just content and satisfied. So we still feel like we can do the things we need to do without feeling uncomfortable in any way. You know, we have the energy from the food without any discomfort. Okay. A 6 is where we do feel the presence of food in our stomach, but we're not uncomfortable. So a good place to stop is between a 5 and a 6. And then from there, a 7 is where we start to feel very full. We might feel distended. We might feel uncomfortable. And then 8, 9, 10, right, is where we just are filling extra into that balloon. And a 10 is where we feel like we're going to pop. Okay. And we have 0 energy. We might be laying on the couch and, you know, waiting for those feelings to pass before we have the energy to do anything. So ideally, we want to eat around a 2 or a 3. And then we want to stop around a 5 or a 6. That's not a lot of food, right? So it's just enough to fill our stomach. Our stomach is about the size of our fist. So that's a handful, is about all the food that we need to fill our stomach. Now, if we're eating something that's not real dense, like salad or something like that, it might be 2 handfuls, right? But again, not a ton of food to get from like a 2 to a 3 up to a 5 or a 6. So we kind of redefine what what hunger looks like and also what fullness looks like. So then we use a strategy called a body, mind, heart scan. And that helps us deliver information, check in with our body, make that mind-body connection. So mindfulness is making that mind-body connection to identify if we have the signs and symptoms of hunger, and what is my hunger number? Like, where am I at? Okay. So again, that can inform as to when is a really good time for us to eat. Around a 2 or a 3 would be ideal. Okay. So let's go ahead and do a body, mind, heart scan really quick. So I want you to sit up nice and tall in your chair, wherever you are. Have your feet grounded on the floor, not crossed. So just feeling your feet grounding down into the floor. You can rest your hands in your lap facing down or up. Relax your shoulders back and down, sit up nice and tall. So we're gonna stack our ears over our shoulders, over our hips, so we have nice alignment here. And then just take a moment and close your eyes. And I want you to start to just check in. When we close our eyes, we can bring our attention inward and start to sense and feel what's going on internally. So taking a few moments first to just notice our breathing. How fast or slow are we breathing? Where's our breath located? Noticing the quality of our breath now. And then starting to slow and deepen our breathing. We spend a lot of time in a stress state where we breathe in a way that's fast, shallow, and irregular. That's our fight or flight nervous system. We want to switch into our rest and digest part of our nervous system when we eat, and also to help calm the body so we're not always in that stress state, so we can be in our relaxation response. So slow, deep, rhythmic breathing help to switch us from that side of the nervous system over to the rest and digest nervous system. So take a moment now as you're breathing slowly and deeply and you're nice and calm and grounded and centered to just check in with your body, any physical sensations that you're feeling in your body. Remember, sometimes we can confuse physical sensations with the sensations of hunger. So it's just information. Are there any areas that feel uncomfortable? Any areas where you're healing or feeling pain? Any areas that feel especially good, strong, spacious? Just noticing our body without labeling those sensations, just allowing them to be as they are. Take a moment now and check in with your mind. Notice any thoughts that are present. Again, not trying to change anything, but our thoughts can lead to feelings, which can lead to our behaviors, our actions. And so it always starts with our thoughts. What are we thinking about? Also notice if there are any physical signs of low blood sugar. Do you feel dizzy, disoriented, cloudy? Do you feel impatient? Or any other signs that your blood sugar is low? Now check in with your heart space, noticing any feelings that are present. What emotions are present in this moment? Emotions are just energy in motion. And so we allow them to express themselves, we acknowledge them. Then begin to move down to your stomach, maybe even rest your hand over your stomach. So it's going to be just below your rib cage, slightly to the left. Just contacting that area will help bring awareness there. Start to notice your stomach. Are you feeling any physical signs of hunger in terms of growling, gnawing, grumbling, any hunger pangs, an empty feeling, maybe even nausea? And then I want you to assign a number to your hunger. Remember that 1 is completely empty. In fact, you'd probably want me to shut up at this point in time if you're at a 1. Like, just shut up, I need food. A 2 is, I'm very hungry. It'd be good to eat now. A 3 would be, could eat now and enjoy it, but I still have a little bit of time. 4 would be just starting to notice signs, symptoms of hunger. A 5, I'm content. I'm neither hungry and I'm not full. I'm satisfied. A 6, I feel the presence of food in my stomach, but I'm not uncomfortable. And then 7, 8, 9, 10 is where we start to feel uncomfortable, distended, where we don't feel like we have a lot of energy and we could just lay down or pop. All right, assign a number, and then also assign a number to how you want to finish. Like, where do you want to be at the end of your meal? Our intention obviously is to feel better when we're done than when we started. So it would be good to stop at maybe a 5 or a 6. There might be a reason that you want to stop at a 6. Maybe there's going to be a period of time before you get to eat again. Maybe not. But just kind of determine where you want to end, setting your intention. Take another couple breaths and then open your eyes. All right. So what kind of information did you get, Jan?
Well, I had a meal before, had my dinner early before this call because I was hungry. And I would say that based on the scale, I think I actually, not because of this, well, I don't know. I think it is informative to me. I feel like portions wise, I'm having smaller portions. So I had a smaller portion of food than I normally would have a week ago, but I think I overate slightly. Like I feel like I'm in like at a 6.5. Like I'm like, ooh, that I just went a little too far. You know, I can feel that in my body. So that it's helpful to have the number, I think, is I have to now I have to make it a habit to be able to check in ahead of time and afterwards, right?
Yeah. So checking in, you know, when I have the urge to eat, ask myself, am I hungry? Right? Check in using the body, mind, heart scan. Do I have the signs and symptoms of hunger? And then how hungry am I? Right? And then before a meal, where do I want to be when I finish? Okay. So setting that intention.
Yeah.
All right. So then moving to the what decision point. Last week, I gave you guys a little tool that you can use. What do I want? Pointing to my head. What do I need? Pointing to my heart. And then opening my hands. What do I have? What do I have available? So we start with what do I want? Is there something that I'm craving, something that I'm desiring in this moment? Remembering that if you really want it, really, 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 really want it, you're going to get around to it eventually anyway, and probably overeat it. So acknowledge whatever it is that you might want, right? Then we check in, what do I need? Are there certain nutrients my body needs? You know, maybe it's been a while since I had some protein, or maybe, you know, it's been a while since I've had some good fat, or, you know, something that our body specifically needs as we're navigating illness or, you know, healing from breast cancer, right? There are certain nutrients like vitamin C that can be really, really good for us. So, you know, thinking about, okay, what nutrients and what things do I need in this moment? And then what do I have available? Okay. So working within that. And so that's part of what requires some planning, right? We have to have some food available on hand so that when we ask ourselves, what do I want and what do I need? There's food available to, you know, to fit and match what our wants and needs are. So having, you know, food on hand. So then how much do I need to reach my goal? So if I said, yeah, I'm at a 2 right now, and I want to be at a 6 when I'm done, about how much food am I going to need to prepare or put on my plate in order to, you know, reach that goal? Okay. So again, intention. So if you're at a restaurant, know that they're going to serve you anywhere from 2 to 3 portions. Okay. So a great tool that you can use in a restaurant is literally to put aside a portion of that where food's suggestible. So the sight of food is going to trick us into thinking we're hungry and we need it, right? So if we put that aside, maybe we put you know, just kind of a divider down the plate, like, you know, draw an imaginary line, or maybe we even put it into a box ahead of time, knowing that we can always come back if we need more. It'll be there, but it's, you know, not as accessible. We can put it away, okay, and then looking at our plate again, we can, you know, start to put a speed bump in, which I'm going to talk about a little bit more in a minute. So hold that thought. So now we're moving into the how decision point. How am I going to eat this food, right? We want to have a pleasant environment. So we don't want to be, you know, in an environment that's not pleasant to us. We want to minimize distractions to the extent possible. So we're fully present while we're eating. We want to calm and center ourselves before we eat. So it's a great time to just slow down, take a couple of deep breaths, just, you know, that beginning part of the body, mind, heart scan where I just had you check in on your breathing and then slow and deepen your breath. Really great way to just center ourselves and switch into the right nervous system that's going to support our eating. Okay. Sitting down can be really helpful. We have a tendency to do other things while we're eating. And if we're standing, we're more likely to do that. So sitting down means we have to be present and be still. Breathing while we eat. So a couple reasons. First of all, the smell is a very important part of taste, right? So have you ever noticed when you're sick or you have a cold, you can't really taste the food very well? It also was a great ploy my mom and my grandma used to use to get me to take medicine that tasted terrible. You plug your nose, right? So that, you know, cuts down on some of the sensation of taste. So we need that airflow, which is going to help us to enjoy the food more. Also, having our mouth stuffed full doesn't enable the food to move across our tongue. Our tongue has various flavor centers. So we have sweet, salty, bitter, sour, and umami. And they're on various places of our tongue. So if our mouth is really full and we don't have oxygen, we're not going to fully taste all the different nuances of the flavors in the food. So small bites. Also, small bites help slow us down a little bit, right? And we want to slow down. It takes 20 minutes for our stomach to communicate with our brain that we're full. 20 minutes, okay? So if we shove all our food down inside of 10 minutes, the chances of us overeating are tremendous, right? Because we ate it all in 10 minutes. Now, 10 minutes later, we're going, oh my gosh, I feel horrible because we ate quickly and didn't pay attention, okay? So slowing down, small bites, taking time to express gratitude. So gratitude connects us to our food. It connects us spiritually. It connects us to all the many hands that were involved in getting the food to us in that form, right? So think about, you know, who planted the food and grew the food and harvested the food and transported the food and put it out in the grocery store and, or, you know, et cetera, right? Prepared it, all of that, okay? But taking that time to really appreciate it connects us to those people who are all involved in getting that food there. We're all connected and food connects us. Decide what bite you want to take first. What looks the most delicious, okay? And take that bite first, even if it's dessert. Take that bite first, okay? Because remember, we're going to enjoy it the most when we're hungry. Our taste buds over time, as we're eating a meal, become less and less sensitive. Otherwise, we would just keep eating and chasing that first bite, right? And sometimes we do that anyway. Sometimes we like remember that first bite and how awesome it was. And then we keep eating, hoping that it's going to taste as good as that first one. But over time, the sensations dissipate, which starts to give us information that maybe we're getting closer to being full. So that's another thing we can notice later when we're eating. Putting the fork down. So a couple of reasons why we want to put the fork down. Yes, it slows us down. But in terms of awareness, we think that we can multitask, but literally studies have shown the brain can only focus on one thing at a time. So we might be really good at switching activities. I used to think I was a multitasker. I just realized I'm completely ADD. I bounce all over the place and I'm doing one thing, then another, right? So it just means I can switch between activities very quickly, but truly our brain can only focus on one thing at a time. So if we have a bite in our mouth and we're loading our fork, which bite are we thinking about?
Yeah, the fork for sure.
Yeah. We're thinking about loading the fork. We're not even noticing the bite that's in our mouth.
Mm.
So we put down the fork so we can pay attention.
Mm.
Then we want to stay present and aware throughout the meal, checking in, notice the way the food smells and tastes and feels. And, as it's moving into our body and we're receiving it, becomes a part of who we are, something that I think we forget about, right? So then the how much is going to be, again, checking in. We're going slowly, we're staying present. We're going to pause in the middle of our meal to check back in and do another body, mind, heart scan, just quickly checking in to now notice how we're feeling, and reassess our hunger and fullness number. And remember, like I said, it takes 20 minutes for the stomach to communicate with the brain. So we can decide at that point, do I want more? That might be a great, if we still have room, maybe that would be a great time to say, no, I'm going to be done with this because I really want dessert, or there's something else I really want that I'm enjoying more than, the bites that I'm taking. What else would I need to feel satisfied at the end of this meal, without overeating and becoming uncomfortable? And then how do we signal that we're done? So this could be removing the plate from the table. It could be putting a napkin over the table. It could be calling a server over to package up our meal for us. It could be, just pushing it off to the side, that kind of thing. But how do we signal that we're done? Okay. So the great thing about the holidays is that there's a lot of variety, right? And so if we go to any kind of a celebration, a party, a get together of any kind, whether it's for the holidays or not, there's usually, a wide variety of foods. So using these tools can be really, really effective in helping you, pick what to put on your plate and what to eat, in terms of what's on your plate. Because maybe you took a bite and it's like not something you really like and you're not enjoying it. Don't keep eating it. Eat what you love what you eat. That's the name of the book. Mm-hmm. So don't bother continuing to eat it. And here's where some of the guilt might come into play. Well, I don't want to hurt their feelings. I don't want them to feel bad. I don't, that kind of thing. Let that go. It's your body, it's your experience, and it's okay that you don't like everything, or not everything feels good in your body, and allow that to be okay, So then now we're continuing, with our attention, where am I going to invest my energy? Well, we go back after the meal and assess, how do I feel now? Do I feel, good? If not, process that. Like, did I eat too much? Did I eat maybe foods that didn't really, weren't what I wanted or needed? Or maybe that, just don't feel good in my body, because sometimes there are certain kinds of foods that maybe don't agree with us, whatever. But reassessing at the end, after the meal's done. And then you can even reassess again 20 minutes later, because remember, it takes time for the body, to register that we're full and see how we feel now. But we can always follow our meal with a pleasant activity, or going back to work, or, whatever our day may include. So that's the way to use the decision points along that eating cycle to remain intentional and to keep redirecting our attention as we eat a meal. Okay.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
You mentioned the speed bump. Where does that fit in?
So the speed bump, thank you for reminding me. So remember I said that you might want to take half of your food, especially if you're at a restaurant, and just kind of set it aside. And then with the remaining half, we're going to set a little speed bump about halfway through, where we are going to pause and do that recheck of the body, mind, heart scan to determine whether or not we want to continue to eat the rest of it. How much more are we going to need to get to our goal that we established before we ate? And then, Or maybe that's a time where we might decide, yeah, you know, I'm going to stop here because I really want to have some dessert, you know, that kind of thing.
Okay. I'm sorry
So
if
that
I
speed
didn't
bump
hear,
is,
if I didn't hear you say it, call it the speed bump. My apologies.
I don't think I did. I think
Okay.
I
Okay.
talked about it without calling it the speed bump. So
Gotcha.
thank you for picking
Gotcha.
that up.
Okay,
I
good.
appreciate that.
I was like, that was
Yeah.
intriguing. No, it makes sense because we do need to slow down for sure. So I know that
Yeah.
I do. Okay.
Right. As opposed to my children, when they see a speed bump when they were learning to drive, that's when they sped up because they want to go flying over it.
Exactly.
How often
Exactly.
have we
Yeah.
gone flying right past that speed bump and then we end up overeating and feeling uncomfortable? So, you know,
Right.
be thinking about that too.
Great.
So I had asked you guys to get a little something that you would enjoy. So we call this fearless eating, something that maybe we previously would have determined or defined as being a bad food, quote unquote, right? Because we want to diminish the power that we've given to food, to where food's on an even playing field. It reduces the chances of us overeating it. It makes us enjoy it more without all the guilt, shame, blame, but also without doing that, the eat, repent, repeat cycle I mentioned last week. Okay. So I chose, and you can get these at Costco, Sanders. It's a dark chocolate sea salt caramel. And I love them. I love them.
And you get them where, did you say?
They have them in Costco, but they're
Okay.
from my husband's hometown. He's from like Detroit, Michigan, and Sanders is from Detroit, Michigan. But yeah, you can get them at Costco. So Sanders chocolate. So whatever you have, if you don't have something, you know, go ahead and take a moment to go grab something that, you know, is small that you can enjoy. And we're going to do like a little tiny mindful eating experience together. So
if you're not,
maybe we should,
not watching,
there you go.
If you're not watching, Jan James is showing her new bag of Lindor chocolates. Because
Lindor chocolates, I love those.
Yeah,
yep.
I don't know how they do that, but boy, they taste good, right? But I would
They
say
sure do.
this is, you know, it is like a, we would call, you know, our language is so important, right, Dawn? We would, you know, I would always call this a guilty pleasure, but you're saying I shouldn't be guilty about eating it.
No.
What is fearless eating?
So fearless eating is where we, you know, put all food on an even playing field and we start to knock down those trigger foods one by one by practicing eating them mindfully and fully enjoying them, and not allowing them to have that power over us anymore, which is going to reduce the chances of us overeating.
Gotcha. Awesome.
Yeah. All right. So now maybe you all have something. Okay. And remember, and you might be getting excited now, right? Oh, there's food. I get excited. I don't know about you. So take a moment. We're going to start by just appreciating its appearance. So it even could be the wrapper. I mean, the wrapper might be really pretty. And I'm looking at yours, Jan, the little Lindor wrapper is very pretty. And it makes that little noise when you go to open it up, so that there's like the little satisfaction of just unwrapping it, right? Mine came in a big tub because it came from Costco. So there's no unwrapping this one individually. But anyway, so yeah, go ahead and just take a moment, unwrap it if it needs to be unwrapped, and just appreciate it, the way it looks. Take a moment to appreciate, you know, all that was involved in getting it in this form to you right now. Okay. And then if it's something that, you know, is larger, mine is larger, right? You know, we want to take a very small little bite so that we can really enjoy all of the nuances of the flavor. So first, before you take that bite, bring it up to your nose. I want you to smell it. So notice the aroma. Notice what you smell. I'm smelling chocolate, vanilla, and salt on mine. That's probably the caramel that I'm smelling, that kind of vanilla-y smell. But my smell is still kind of goofed up from COVID, so mine's not entirely accurate. All right, so smell it. Smells good. Maybe your mouth's starting to water like Pavlov's dog. That's okay. It's just getting those juices flowing. And then we're going to take a little bite, but I want you, when you take this bite, to chew it fully, let it move across your tongue, keep your eyes closed and keep breathing as you do that. So your eyes are going to be closed so you can pay attention to the feedback that you're getting. You can really enjoy all of the different flavors and the flavor profiles that are there. And again, keep breathing and moving it across your tongue. And then when you feel ready to swallow, swallow it. And I want you to feel it moving through the throat, and you might even notice it plunk right into your belly. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that together. So go ahead and bring it up to your nose, smell it. Breathing slowly and deeply. Take a little bite. And I'm not going to talk through this, so I'm going to talk ahead of time. With the bite in your mouth, chew it slowly, let it go across the tongue. Keep breathing, enjoying all the flavors. And when you have chewed it completely, swallow it and feel it move through your throat and into your stomach.
That's delicious.
Tell me about it.
These are so creamy. I don't really know how they do that, but boy, like it just melts in your mouth, literally melts in your mouth. Yummy.
And sharing that experience with me, Jan, makes me enjoy it even more too. It's another expression of gratitude, like to go, oh my gosh, this tastes so good. And like expressing thanks and enjoyment, right? I tasted dark chocolate and salt and caramel, and it was delicious. And I felt it melting in my mouth and moving down my throat into my stomach. And my stomach was like, yeah, I'm hungry. That was awesome. So,
and for the record, this is the very first time I've not eaten a Lindor chocolate in one bite. So I only ate half of it, so I can go again, which is nice.
You can go again. So go ahead and take another bite. Take another bite. I'm gonna take another bite too. Your eyes closed. Same thing as last time. Do you notice anything different about the second bite?
It almost feels to me more rich, but that's just, I mean, just my personal experience right now, but boy, yummy.
No. Yeah. And we might notice on that second bite, maybe it's even, even better than the first because we're more present. We might notice it's not as good as the first because that first bite is always like the best bite, just for some of us. So noticing those things, you might notice different nuances of flavors that maybe you didn't notice in the first bite, like just noticing is really powerful. And excuse me, I have a little bubble in my throat. So imagine, doing that throughout an entire meal. Okay. How much more enjoyment you'll get, how much more you'll be connected to the act of eating. As you remain present, you're going to enjoy it so much more and feel more satisfied at the end. It'll reduce the chances of you overeating. Also, reduce the chances of you walking away from the meal, not, just not feeling satisfied. But, there's just so much enjoyment to be had in our meals. And it doesn't mean that you have to have your eyes closed for every single bite for the entire meal, but try doing that sometime just for fun. Because we've done these in our retreats and in our mindful eating groups where we've done an actual meal where it's a completely silent meal, and they do that through the entire meal. And it is amazing the feedback that you'll hear from people in terms of what that experience was like. and how much more they enjoyed their food, but also how much more they noticed their body and how their body felt as they were eating. How they were missing out on their cues for fullness, and now they're more dialed into them, and just so much information that you can get from doing something like that.
Great idea.
Awesome. Yeah. So we have I have an 8-week series starting in February, and I'm offering $100 off for any of Jan's ladies who would like to participate in that. So we'll make sure that we have a link available with a special discount code if you want to join us. So that would be an 8-week group series. It's going to be on Mondays at noon. So Mindful Eating Mondays over lunchtime. And yes, you can bring your lunch.
And yes, there will be, and there are recordings for those that can't come live.
Yes.
And they would have access to the recordings lifetime, right? Lifetime access?
Yeah.
Great.
You'd have lifetime access to those recordings. I'm also going to provide you guys with 8 free yoga videos. So mindful eating and yoga videos, where it literally includes the concepts that we're talking about each week. And it's brought into a yoga practice, and they're all levels practices. Some are on the more gentle side, but it's between like gentle and level 1. So they're very accessible to most people. So you'll get those for free. I also am offering a free one-on-one consultation with me. Okay. And that's worth $75. So, if you want to do that beforehand to just determine whether or not this program is a good fit for you, or if you want to do it during the program because you need a little coaching, that sort of thing. Okay. So that's going to be available to you guys as well. And then we have a bunch of goodies for you. We're going to have 101 things to do besides eat. We're going to give you the option to sign up for what's called mindful moments that just bring your awareness to a question for the day to kind of set your intention for the day around food. You'll get a free chapter of the book, Eat What You Love, Love What You Eat, to just introduce you to the book and see if that's something, you are interested in. And I'm trying to remember, there was something else, Jen, I might be missing, but we'll have lots of goodies for you guys.
Yeah. And over the next several weeks, as I said, ladies, the next couple of months, we're going to, in all of the groups, be dropping just some golden nuggets into the groups that are going to help you learn just bite by bite, may I say, about mindful eating. Just little things to make you think about the way or what your relationship with food is. And I'm learning right along with you. As I said last week, I'm totally all in on this because I really, I have struggled in my adult life with weight, and I'm tired of doing that. So I know that I have a lot of life to live, and I'm ready to embrace that. And I want food to be in its proper perspective in my life. I think it's had too much power over me in the past.
Freedom. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And, and by the way, you guys, this is a journey. It's not a destination. And so Jen last week was wearing a shirt that said progress over perfection. That's what we talk about in this program quite a bit. And we also talk about direction, not perfection. It's movement in a direction that's just better for us. It's more fulfilling, more rewarding. We're going to feel more freed up to enjoy life when we're not worrying about food all the time. I remember saying to somebody, I wish I could have all the time back that I spent obsessing over food, between dieting and overeating and beating myself up, and the eat, repent, repeat cycle, how much energy and time that took away from me. And just being able to, be free to live our lives and have food, like Jan said, just kind of in its proper place. And it's very liberating. And Jan, you had mentioned earlier that this isn't really specific to sex after breast cancer, but the reality is our relationship with food and our body does affect the way we behave in the bedroom. So one of the things that really, the more we make friends with our relationship with food and we make friends with our body, we're going to feel better in all areas of our life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, we are very complex creatures. And I think that all of the things that we do under the Hope After Breast Cancer umbrella be it, we've got so many different experts in so many different disciplines, but everything is connected. We have to take care of the whole of our body. And so this is such an important thing. It's interesting because I've thought often about, folks that have addictions, and I have certainly been surrounded. I've had a lot of addicts in my life. I am grateful that I have not had like an alcohol addiction or a drug addiction over the years, but it's really funny. Do I have a food addiction? It's like I've had to think about that is, you can't just like cold turkey food. You have to have it. Right.
Yeah.
And
you have to have it to survive.
Yeah. So it's really just being able to think more deeply about food and its relationship and what its true purpose is in my life is super important. And it's not anything I've ever tackled before. So this is new learning for me.
Yeah. In March, Dr. Michelle May, who founded this program, is going to be doing a retreat here locally in Scottsdale for people who are dealing with chronic overeating and emotional eating. And so that's going to be in March, and I'll be the yoga teacher for that. But she'll be the one presenting the material, but it might be something that you all would be interested in attending. And so I'll make sure once we have the information available, that you are, able to access that in case you want to attend that retreat.
Right. We've got gals all over the place. So, but many are in Arizona for sure. So that'll be great. So yeah. And ladies, we'll just keep you posted, both in our groups and through our newsletter, which comes out a couple times a month. And so just be sure that you're subscribed to that. And I think with that, Dawn, we're all wrapped up, right? Very good. Well, good. Well, thank you so much again for sharing your expertise and your passion. And I know that your story that you shared last week was so inspiring about how this program and yoga had really totally healed you from an eating addiction. And ladies, make sure that you go and watch the first video if you haven't already. Dawn shared a whole bunch of different things than she did today. So just collectively, we want to move into this place for whoever is interested. And again, be watching for posts in the group and information in the newsletter and on the website and in the podcast. And so with that being said, I want to thank you, Dawn Hopkins, for being our guest today. And we'll look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thanks for having me, Jan. I really appreciate it.
Thanks. So glad you were here. So for Hope After Breast Cancer, this is Jan James. We'll see you next time. Take care. Hey there. Thanks for listening to our podcast. Every single week, our contributing experts share new tips to help you heal your unseen wounds. So please be sure to subscribe and like this episode. We'll see you next time.